This season of The Digital Fix is sponsored in part by Uconnect, providing true transparency for brands and agencies in the biddable media space. Visit them today at uconnect.com.
You're listening to The Digital Fix, digital marketing done right. This season is presented by Mio Marketplace. Mio, the marketer's matchmaker. If you're a brand marketer or an agency, media, or platform that works with them, Mio is a marketplace built just for you. Visit them at miomarketplace.com. And by Moy & Halter, a strategic consultancy. If you're struggling with getting your creative and content to efficiently work with your media strategy, we help solve for that. Reach out for a free consultation today at moyandhalter.com. And now, here's your hosts for The Digital Fix, Sean Halter and Stephen Moy.
You are listening to The Digital Fix, the podcast for all things digital marketing presented by Mio Marketplace. At Mio, we like to do the heavy lifting. We turn marketing insights and outreach into action. Visit them today at miomarketplace.com. As a reminder, The Digital Fix is hosted by myself, the much more handsome Stephen Moy, both of us with Moy & Halter, a consultancy looking to help bridge the brands and agencies, help them with the gap in the AI space. We've got as our guest today, Michael Burgi, Senior Editor of Media Buying and Planning over at Digiday. Welcome back to the podcast, sir. And we've got Darren Cross with us as well, author of the book, No One Planned This, and co-founder, managing partner at DISTLLR. Gentlemen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We zip through this thing. We try to get through all the first parts first and let you guys do the talking as much as possible. First question really is this. It's called Digital Done Right. Name another marketer or brand who you think is getting digital right these days and why. Darren, let's start with you.
You know, I come from a little different perspective since I work more with publishers. But I mean, I'm a big believer in the axiom that nobody knows anything, right? If you stay inside it, the churn gets very confusing with all the cycles and anecdotes, but the really way to make sense of this is to zoom out and think system-wise. So from that vantage point, we think about how digital is done right, from performance compounds and the pipes are built correctly, and we plug the leaks.
Michael, I'm going to ask you next, but it is a reminder. I don't know, I'm of an age, I thought I might be able to skip some of this, but no, now I'm all in. Steven's convinced me. Agentic, everything else not going away, so now I'm all in. Michael, you're never one short for words. Tell us who you'd pick this week and why.
Well, you know me as a professional naysayer. I tend to focus on the ones that are bugging the living hell out of me. And having just spent a lot of time watching Olympics coverage and, a lot of that on Peacock and other digital platforms, I think we need to start thinking about moving beyond the era of these massive sponsors whose ads are repeatedly shown to us over and over again to the point where I no longer want to buy their product or service. Again, being the grumpy guy that I am, I would say let's rethink, kind of reach and frequency when it comes to these major sponsorships of tentpole events.
Do they even do reach and frequency on streaming? Because I was watching, I think was it tennis? There's some event I was watching recently and I was watching it streaming. And I swear I saw the same two commercials over and over. They really made me hate them. I don't think they realized how poisonous it was.
It's a problem that's been around for 10 years, and each of the streamers talk about attempts to resolve it or figure out the problem. They have not.
Even for connected TV, right? Like, Michael, you're right. Like, I watch a lot of late, like, that's how I unwind and things like that, right? Watching Hulu, I keep seeing the same ad. Because we're maybe similar age group, at least me, AARP, and then I need to have a disclaimer. I don't need it, like Viagra, for some reason. Like the Viagra keep coming up.
I'll take that. I'll take that ad.
Well, a part of this is typecasting, right? Because a lot of sports is old. I mean, as an age group. So like the NFL has an average age in the mid-50s. Tennis has older. God, if you watch golf, it's nothing but like senior medications, right? That and the personal jets.
True.
I don't know who has those, but anyway, it's an interesting distillation when you're on streaming television. I ran a couple years ago, Unreal Entertainment. We did a lot of early ad-supported streaming applications, and the ads are just hard to get. It's just hard to get enough inventory. So you find a lot of just poor choices, and you don't want to leave. The blank slate's even worse.
So we can dig into that a little bit more. Michael and I also know some secrets to that sauce, which is these are two different things. One is this element that you mentioned, Michael, which is kind of like sponsors, which are baked into the product and they just drive it so far home that you're like, yeah, I get it. Coke, you guys sponsor this. The other is afoot because it's mostly in the programmatic space and it's a cash grab. It's actually an attempt to try to scoop up as many of those dollars and hope that those that are responsible for it don't catch the fact that 10 ads ran in a row. And the issue with that, again, we could probably spend a whole episode on that. I know we don't want to, is that the players in the space don't necessarily want to fix it. The agencies want all the money to run. The programmatic platforms want all the money to run. And the players that are maybe not as honest as others want to try to skim this through at a $32 CPM because they can win the bid versus a $36 or a $37 or $40 CPM for the others. And the one that really loses is the client. That's the part of this that goes unanswered. And I think that Agentic will clean some of that up. Go ahead, Stephen.
Well, can I take it to the more modern era, right? Like with Michael and Darren here, like with ChatGPT started doing pay ads, right? Would it change? Like we just talked about some of the, problems or observation we have right now. All of a sudden, at least my client side, like, do we put ad there? Like, is it another channel mix? And I don't think it's a traditional media mix problem anymore. But I'm curious about what you guys think with the new paradigm, right? Let's start with Darren.
It makes me want to lean even more into Claude. I mean, that's a really big problem. The GPTs a lot, and actually I use several of them because I have to work them against each other because the hallucinations, the outright fabrications, I didn't mean that, type of things. Yeah. If you start weaving in commercial motivations to give you information and answers, I mean, I had a really pedantic thing about cholesterol, and I went to, Grok wanted me to go full keto. I'm like, well, wait a minute, right? And I go to Gemini, and it's got a really super, super careful read on it. And then I go to Claude, and then you're like, hold it, what can I do that's actually actionable, and I'm not going to be like hurting myself, right? And if you put the purple pill aspect into that, like the commercials on TV, it'll just be one commercial after the other disguised as answers. And I just fear that a lot.
Well, that's exactly what I'm fearful of. I don't mean to be insulting to anyone, but generally consumers are not as informed as we would hope they are. And if you start folding in brand messaging into kind of, prompts and search results within Agentic, that's a really scary proposition to me. When we really start getting into kind of like almost thought control by brand. The other interesting thing I just want to notice, Darren, is I love the fact that you were so close to like describing how each of the different LLMs has its own personality that is reflective of their owner.
Sure.
And totally.
It's not just the owner, it's them. Now, so ChatGPT 6 months ago was super helpful. Now ChatGPT is like that really annoying professor that wants to rephrase everything you said and re-say what you just said, but talking down to you like, let's ground this. Like, I'm glad we're doing this, and it's just saying what you just said in a few different words, like it just taught you something. And you're like, wait a minute, right? And meanwhile, Claude is like super helpful, but like doesn't want to step on your toes. And what do you think? And then you go Grok, and Grok is like, dude, we should do this.
Yeah.
Blow it out, right?
It's like
it's about facts.
Of LLMs.
Yeah. Gemini is like, Gemini's lost, right? Gemini is constantly like making excuses, and I keep forgetting this. And he goes, what you should do is you should go into settings and hard code the things I should remember. I'm like, why am I paying you if I got to hard code you? How about I just delete you?
But it's interesting, right? I'm in one of the independent agency, right? We got a lot of on board a lot of new clients. So we call digital product and service, but especially on the website, many conversation, overwhelmingly over 50%. They want to change the paradigm. Used to be click, right? Click. Now it's answer prompt based. So is it really like maybe branch out of a personality, like when they really shifted into the prompt world, right? The AI computing world. I'm curious about what you guys think, right? Because you will see more and more website with design more like a prompt. I can see that happening. Yeah. What's your thought, Michael and Darren?
I just fear that we're getting into areas where the consumer is manipulated. That's what I keep coming back to is like we're getting into deeper and deeper manipulation by the few who control information. And it's so funny because 20 years ago, there's all this talk about the concentration of media and the dangers of messaging there, which those were kind of real. but we're like, that was like checkers, and now we're getting into 3D chess area. I will confess to being kind of somewhat of a Luddite and being more fearful than optimistic.
You will see more and more, but the paradigm shift, right? Instead of a click based, now it's prompt based, right? You know,
Yes.
I have many more clients say, hey, let's design a website look like a prompt.
Well, I mean, I think that's a pernicious and dangerous thing for people closer to our age. But for somebody my son's age, 13, he doesn't even go to a website, right?
Of course,
He's living in TikTok and YouTube. And his number 1 and 2 search engines are the 2 names I just mentioned, right? He's getting his facts, he's getting his information, he's getting his worldview from unverified, unvetted. You know, it's quite fascinating. I mean, even now, my son is quickly onboarding like Bruce Lee movies and Simpsons and everything else, and they're sped up, just showing the images with AI talking over it, telling you the script basically. And I'm like, I was talking to him this morning while I was eating breakfast. Why are you watching that? The most fun part about The Simpsons are the voices, right? So, and he loves The Simpsons. Like, he goes, yeah, whatever, Dad. And he's 13, and I'm like, he does a lot of that. And I think going forward, as you start to transmit information and facts through these video engines, it's very, very powerful and visible because they don't see it. They don't really. He's come to me with so many facts. And I'll go, well, not quite, buddy. And I'll give him some other stuff. And he's like, nah, you know what I mean? Because it's just too much talk. But it's quite a little scary, really.
You know, everything is, new was old. Facebook obviously started this kind of stuff many years ago. Let's talk about you guys for just a moment rather than AI. This is called Hey, That's Me. In 60 seconds, tell us who you are, what you do, and why you do it. Darren, let's stick with you for this one.
I'm mostly focused on the creator space and streaming. So I run DISTLLR, and what we do, we work with publishers, and we focus on publishers, not less than brands and less than creators. We focus with publishers to build standardized digital operating systems. So that output becomes repeatable, measurable, monetizable. We find that a lot of the failing points for a lot of big brands, even and big publishers, is just the block and tackling and the religion.
Yeah, good point. Michael?
I swear I'm not a professional curmudgeon, although I seem to come off that way whenever we have these discussions. I'm a senior editor with Digiday. If you're not familiar with Digiday, we cover digital media and marketing and all aspects therein. I'm fortunate enough to work with a lot of people way smarter than me. I'm fascinated by what is happening in this industry right now. My main mandate is to cover the media agencies, which for better or for worse means mostly covering the holding companies. And God knows there's a lot to cover there. But also the rise of independence is, it's kind of like watching the Evil Empire versus like the Rebel Alliance. But not that I'm like taking sides.
Oh, take a side. Come on.
And thank you for dropping Rise of the Independents, which, by the way, self-promotion is the name of one of our other podcasts. We'll be back in the spring. If you're an independent agency, be sure to reach out. I'm sure we'll have Michael back on talking more about all things that. Stephen, next question's yours.
What a circus out there. You work for many holding company. And today it caught my eyes. Right? I said, wow, did you guys learn something? So WPP Creative. They did WPP Media, right? Now they're consolidating all the creative bigger drops, supposed to be dropping Ogilvy, VML, the brand. Remember Dentsu did that? And Dentsu did creative. I used to work at Dentsu. So I used to work with like McGarry Bowen, 360i. When I competing with them, when I talked to the client's so confused. So are you McGarry Bowen today or Dentsu Creative? Why? I don't understand, Michael. Lacking the brand identity, what the creative team stand for, is the danger zone to getting into a generic bucket, just WPP Creative. I'm curious about your thought, at least my humble opinion.
You just hit the nail on the head. When you approach creative from a generic standpoint, you're going to sacrifice and lose. But the problem is within the holding company model, the problem is that, creative doesn't generate revenue the way media does. And so because holding companies are largely financial models, that's why they've kind of done this consolidation. But I think you as I said, you've hit the nail on the head in that when you just take away creative brand names, you're obviously sacrificing something. And I think that's definitely happening.
And Darren, what's your take? Like in the crazy world?
In my experience, it's a common salesperson ploy is to bring up something bright and shiny to distract from whatever's going on. But also, it's just easier to sell something new than it is to go back and find the real value in something that exists.
I think part of the issue is just that if you're out there pitching creative, but your own, it's the cobbler story, right? The cobbler's got the worst shoes in the neighborhood. Here you are trying to explain, you need to have self-identity. You need to be this, and yet the holding groups are doing nothing but just slashing. Let's address AI one more time here,
Sure.
which is just this: what's coming next? So, everything is changing so quickly. What was new 2 months ago is now old hat. We all know we started this whole conversation wrapped around the fact that Gemini is probably one of the absolute worst to me agentic tools out there. It can't even find websites, which is insane to me. I have to go to chat to get the website to then send the prompt to Gemini to try to get feedback. You've got Perplexity, which it looked like Apple might buy and then somehow decided not to, decided to pull their partnership with Gemini in, and Claude, which is just constantly innovating. So what's next? Darren, sitting in your space, what are we missing? What do we need to be thinking about? What's coming next?
First of all, with Claude, I have a problem with them because there's still a bit of time trapped in 2025. So you've got to be very careful if you're going to orient them around when. And it also it gives me great ideas like, you should search that up. I'm like, wait a minute, you're supposed to search that up. So other than that, I'm with you. Look, I think a lot of these tools are going to be built into other things that you use daily. So you're going to spend less time going to their window or their browser. I mean, I have both Chats and Claude's apps on my MacBook. And quite frankly, I do that because I feel like with Chat, I feel like they slow down the browser version on purpose. You know what I mean? So I've kind of defaulted, but here I am with Claude. And if I dare hit, hold, cap lock, it gives me this, talking thing. I'm like, oh, okay, delete it, remove it, put it back on again. So it's really annoying. So I think these are tools, right? So and Chat's now pushing their new browser, which I won't touch because I don't trust them. But so I think, these tools will be woven into something that's more daily. And I think we're going to see a lot of AI tools built into the video platforms.
That'd be interesting. And especially with something like OpenClaw, supposedly is kind of an all-in-one agent for you. Michael, what are you hearing out in the ethers? You're in this industry that's always listening. People are always coming and pitching what's coming next. How about from your perspective?
From Digiday's perspective, we're definitely trying to get to the bottom of, with ChatGPT incorporating, ads and going to brands directly here. What will that mean? And by the way, none of us have mentioned Meta once, I don't think. I think is as telling as just how bad people seem to think Gemini is. What we're trying to get into is, how will this take shape? How will the money get spent? Always follow the dollars and see how it affects the content. And I think there's just so many more questions and answers. I don't know what's coming next because we still haven't quite figured out how advertising and branding is going to wend its way into this. And as we talked about earlier, I think there's some trepidation about how not great information can get folded into brand messages, and how do you safeguard against that? Brand safety is already a problem, and now we've just taken it up to 3 different levels.
It's super dangerous. I have a professional friend who's doing some. I'm a lawyer by training, but I kicked the habit a long time ago. But he had a personal problem, and he was doing a lot of Gemini legal research and Gemini legal theory creation. And when I say creation, I mean creation, because it was just making stuff up.
Okay.
And mashing some real stuff together with some stuff that it wishes was there. And then the more it feeds, because that person accepts it and reinforces it, and then it comes back even stronger. And I have had these long discussions and almost ranting arguments with several of the AIs. I'm like, why are you saying this? Why are you saying this is wrong? Why are you putting this through? And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. And I go, well, how do you get away with this? I mean, doesn't everybody call you on this? Well, not everybody has your memory, and not everybody is willing to call you out. I'm like, are you kidding me? You're printing this right now that most people just eat this because they're not paying attention. Is that what you're saying? That's the answer? And I think it is hard to believe.
It's this close to gaslighting. It's a good point.
Yeah.
Stephen, I was talking to our friend Dave Kersey today. He's over at Shark
How's
Ninja,
Dave doing?
Dave is great. He's cold. As
we need a martini.
As many people are. It's a good point. We do need a martini. But he was talking about the point you just made, Michael. He's responsible for media for Shark Ninja on a global scale. They, like everybody else, are looking to figure out where agentic does or doesn't come to play, especially from a media strategy standpoint. How globalized can you utilize this technology to then kind kind of narrow it down. Stephen, as you mentioned early in the call, what you guys are doing over at G&Co is also kind of in that space. So from your perspective, what's next? Stephen, what do you see coming next for agentic?
It's very interesting. I mean, everybody have a fair point. I think first, at least from in different categories, especially in the category impacted the most would be retail, travel, and they are a lot of brands are really want to be discovered. So the new product discoverability is a huge topic. Like how are they being discovered? So agents are not a new audience, right? You have to face it. Like maybe to you guys find maybe Dumb and Dumber, you have to create a dumb agent talking to a dumb agent, and then you get this. But the challenge will be assuming the adoption continue to at this pace, right? ChatGPT generated, I think Digiday published it, generated 20% of Walmart.com traffic. Right? So
Yes.
if you continue become the new touch point, like Darren talked about the younger generation. I remember when, iPhone came along, social media came along, no one go to Best Buy anymore. They go to, right? Go to like Instagram and TikTok, ask for product reviews. So I see a lot of investment there, like being discovered, how to get. I would see a new wave of direct to consumer brand. They don't have the legacy. They can do a little bit faster and quicker, and then capture the market share and then stabilize again. That would be fascinating to watch. Second will be, I'm curious, would it be like Microsoft Word back in the day, right? People discover, they design 100,000 of functionality, only 10% being used. I wonder is AI will become, wow, we only use it to making sure, people use it for therapy. I have people actually talk to them like a therapist, or, doing research. I wonder will we actually becoming like that, like just 10% being used, right?
Well, I've seen a lot of research already that lands in my inbox talking about how CEOs and CMOs are kind of pushing downward pressure on their various teams to employ AI in some form or another within their companies. And there's a lot of kabuki theater going on without actual like work or use. I think that percentage of what is hoped for and what actually gets used, there's a big gap there.
Totally.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially when it gets pushed down from the top, use these tools. For what?
Yeah.
How?
Right.
In place of
there's
what?
No strategy.
Right?
Yeah.
Darren, I've got a question for you. What's one or two, again, I don't mean to make it answer who your favorite stepchild is, but what's one or two projects that you guys have been working on recently that you just feel like, man, this has been interesting work. We really enjoyed doing this kind of work.
We got one client that's traditional IP. It's a long-loved brand. I can't really go into who it is, but they make a lot of great content. They got a long history, and they've been on YouTube for a long time. But surprisingly, I don't want to say haphazard, but more from a content creation perspective than a real kind of operational perspective, like where you really ground things in data, find patterns, refine, iterate, right? And we kind of bring that kind of, what we really bring is the boring stuff, right? So we really want, standardization for clip repositories, clean metadata, repeatable format structures, consistent publishing cadence and performance, all that kind of stuff. Really boring, but the train should run on time. The bus schedule should mean something, and you should always meet your audience's expectations.
You just brought up YouTube, and that's where the spin I'll take with you, Michael, if you don't mind. Evan Shapiro, friend of ours, friend of the podcast, constantly out there talking about the fact that YouTube is eating everybody else's lunch, and we're not even realizing it half the time. What are you hearing from media agencies out there as far as what role YouTube is really taking in their overall media strategy?
Well, I think YouTube is, God, you could almost say YouTube is the most successful thing about Google these days, in that it has become a legitimate video choice for anyone making investments on behalf of their clients of kind of video or TV advertising. But also, as my colleague Sam Bradley just wrote about this morning, like YouTube is becoming an essential part of like GEO now. Every YouTube video is, the metadata and all that stuff is there and readable. You need to make sure that like you're thinking about that, which makes YouTube now as important on an agentic scale as it is a legitimate video channel. Let's go back though to the fact that, there's a lot of stuff on YouTube that may not necessarily be kind of right or accurate or whatever. So there's a danger that comes with it. But yeah, YouTube, like, and ever since YouTube inventory, I think, became available through Amazon's DSP, that was another big shot in the arm for them.
Yeah.
So it's eating television.
Stephen, you get to ask the last question, which is the one all about who would you pick? Who would be your keynote?
Yes,
What-
yes. Let's say we all go on a keynote. We go on keynote like possible, right? Coming up with Christian. Who will you pick as your guest? Like dead or alive, right? Let's start with Darren. Anybody?
You know, I see these clips of David Bowie talking about the future in the late 90s. Because in addition to being a reformed lawyer, I'm also I go to AA for musicians kind of type of thing. So I would love that.
Bowie would be great. It's a great pick.
Bowie, good choice.
Michael?
Darren, that is such a great choice. I feel like an idiot now with my suggestion. I was thinking more about the industry because I guess I'm a dork. The person whose name keeps coming up that I want to hear more about, if I can ever actually speak to her, is Fiji Simo, who is leading OpenAI's ad efforts. I'd be curious to know what she's got to say. But I also think Amadei of Anthropic, given what's happening between Anthropic and the military right now, and Anthropic choosing not to run advertising, I'd want to hear more about him because he seems to be the one leader kind of saying, we are moving too fast. Let's hit the brakes a little bit. And being the Luddite that I am, I want to hear what he's got to say. So those are, sorry, I gave you two instead of one, but
it's all good. I just need to I need to look the word Luddite up. Stephen, as we often do now, you get the last word. What's the thing we need to be thinking
Well,
of?
based on this conversation, I still believe, right? Old is new, classic is good. So meaning differentiation, right? Even with agentic AI, if your brand lack of differentiation, you're not gonna pick up a dumb agent or smart agent or anywhere in the world sea of sameness, right? And also all the different channel interaction point. Go back to 101 brand differentiation. Why, right? Why people pick you? Why people connect with you emotionally? I think differentiation is hopefully it's a good word.
Why is a great question. I constantly ask chat just that. So listen, that's going to put a button on it for this episode of The Digital Fix. On behalf of myself, the much more intelligent Stephen Moy with the last word, Michael Burgi and Darren Cross, thank you guys all for joining us, and thank all of you for listening to this episode of The Digital Fix. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to The Digital Fix, digital marketing done right. This season is presented by Mio Marketplace. Mio, the marketer's matchmaker. If you're a brand marketer or an agency, media, or platform that works with them, Mio is a marketplace built just for you. Visit them at miomarketplace.com. And by Moy and Halter, a strategic consultancy. If you're struggling with getting your creative and content to efficiently work with your media strategy, we help solve for that, typically in 30 days or less. Reach out for a free consultation today at moyandhalter.com.